So the next topic we will be learning about EMF is Coulomb's law. For that, just you have to consider the point charges. Point charges are nothing but the charge present at a point. The size of point will be having a point will be a small sphere having radius tending to 0. Means it is a sphere having radius tending to 0. It will be considered as a point, and the charge present on that point will be called as point charge. So consider two point charges as q1 will be the first point charge, second q2 will be second point charge, and if the distance between these two point charges is r, then these 2 point charge will experience force. The point charge q2 will experience force in this direction, in the radial direction. In this direction it will be with by force, it will be called as force F2. It is a directional quantity shown with direction arrow. It is a directional quantity. It will be in the radial direction of this line R. So F2 is the force experienced by charge Q2 due to charge Q1. Similarly, Q1 will also experience some force due to Q2 in the same radial direction, but in opposite direction. Say in the same radial line, but in opposite direction. So it will experience the force as F1. So F1 is the force experienced by charge Q1 due to charge Q2. So this is nothing but Coulomb's law. This is Coulomb's law. So the formula for the force, if you want to calculate force, then the formula will be dependent on the value of charge Q1 and charge Q2, and the last is R. If distance is more, then the force of attraction or repulsion will be less. If distance is more, then force will be less. If the value of charge is more, then the force will be more. So Q1, Q2 will be, force will be directly proportional to Q1 and Q2 and inversely proportional to the square of radial distance. The formula for that will be this formula. This is the formula for force. So the Q1, the formula, it shows that it is directly proportional to the product of both charges and inversely proportional to the square of radial distance between two charges. So if you replace this proportionality sign with some constant k, then the formula will be F equal to k into Q1 Q2 upon R square. But in fact this k is nothing but 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. So the formula will become F equal to, it will become F equal to Q1 Q2 upon 4 pi epsilon naught into R square, where k is k is nothing but 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. It is a constant value. So if you asked about Coulomb's law, then you can say that force is directly proportional to the product of charges and inversely proportional to the square of radial distance. Just a minute. And the force is measured in newtons, so we can call it as this force in Newton. Then this is a scalar force, but to find the force in which is having a direction, we have to just multiply this force with a unit vector. If you are calculating the force F2, then you have to multiply this F by a unit vector in this direction. So if I mark a unit vector in this direction, as if I call it as A12, A12 is a unit vector having a direction from 1 to 2. A12 has a direction from Q1 to Q2, then force F2 will be A cap 12. F2 will have a scalar component, this scalar component, and a vector A cap 12. just by multiplying a cap 1 2, you will be having a vector force, and it will be having unit as Newton. And you can see that in this case both the forces will have same magnitude, because force F1 will have formula Q1 into Q2 upon R square into a cap 21, a cap 21. Only the difference is the direction. A cap 21, a cap 21 will be a unit vector having direction from Q2 to Q1. So if you compare F1 and F2, there is the difference of only unit vector, magnitude will be same. So we can say that the F1 and F2 both will have same magnitude. We can write F1, mod of F1 is equals to mod of F2, mod of F1 equal to mod of F2. And if I remove mod, then it will be F1 equals to minus of F2, because they have the opposite direction. Opposite direction can be represented by a minus sign. The next is electric field intensity. So we can find electric field intensity with the help of force. So I am just putting the formula for force again. This is the formula for force, and there is a relation between electromagnetic field and force as E equals to F upon Q. Electromagnetic field is nothing but the field radiated by the charge. The field that is radiated by the charge is electromagnetic field. The Q1 is a charge present here at this point, and it is radiating charge in all possible directions. It is radiating charge in all possible directions. It is called as electromagnetic field. It is radiating electromagnetic field E bar in all possible direction. Then electromagnetic field of charge Q1 experienced at point Q2. मतलब electromagnetic field E1 or E1, it is nothing but E1 E2, electromagnetic field E2, it is present at point Q2. It is nothing but a field radiated by charge Q1, and it is coming to charge Q2, so it will be called as E2 at point P. It is given as Q1 upon, because it is because of charge Q1, so Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught into R square. So let me directly paste the formula, it will be better. So electromagnetic field is given by this formula. It is E2 is the electromagnetic field present at point Q2 due to charge Q1. So it will be E2 equals to Q1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught into R square into the direction. The direction of electromagnetic field will be, if it is coming here from point Q1, the direction will be in the direction of F2. Means it will have direction A cap 1 2. So which is written here, A cap 1 2, and the unit of electromagnetic field is volt per meter, V by M, volt per meter. So electromagnetic field, it is given by formula Q1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught R square into A cap R, where AR is the radial direction from the source point to the field point. It is called as source point, it is called as field point. So electromagnetic field is measured at field point due to source charge. So the formula, generalized formula for electromagnetic field can be written like this. This is generalized formula for electromagnetic field. E equals to Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught R square A cap R. The unit is volt per meter. Just you have to remember this formula. Now electromagnetic field, one charge will radiate electromagnetic field if you have multiple charges like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. If you have multiple charges, then the total electromagnetic field will be sum of all the electromagnetic fields produced by all the charges. So consider this as the first point charge as Q1. This will be considered as Q2 second point charge. This is Q3 third point charge. So if you want to calculate the total electromagnetic field at this point, then we have to measure electromagnetic field due to Q1 like this. So it will go like this in this direction. Then electromagnetic field from Q2, it will be like this. Then electromagnetic field from Q3, it will be like this. These are three vectors from the source charge to the field point. So the first vector will give you vector E bar 1, second will be E bar 2, third will be E3. So E1 will be vector E1 is the electromagnetic field due to charge Q1 at point P. Let is the point P. Where E2 is the electromagnetic field intensity due to source charge Q2 at field point P, and E3 is the electromagnetic field intensity at field point P due to source charge Q3, and the total electromagnetic field intensity at point P due to three charges Q1, Q2, Q3 will be sum of all the three. Sum of all the three means E1 plus E2 plus E3 will give you E. So let me draw paste a figure to understand this more better. Consider there are three charges Q1, Q2 and Q3 at point P. Then the electromagnetic field intensity due to point charge Q1 will be E1, and these are nothing but vector additions, graphical method of adding vectors. So in the figure the E1 and E2 are added with this parallelogram law. So the resultant vector will be this vector. Resultant vector will be this vector. This will be a resultant vector. Addition of E1 and E2, and adding this resultant vector with this E3 will be drawing a parallelogram like this, and the diagonal will give you the resultant vector of these two, means the final addition. So final addition will be in this direction. Final vector will be in this direction. So it will be sum of E1, E2, E3. Just you have to remember that electromagnetic field intensity due to multiple charges will be sum of all the electric field intensity. It will be sum of all the electric field intensity due to all the charges. The another type of charge is line charge. This is point charge. Then the next will be line charge. So let me paste the figure for that. So this is the figure to show the effect of line charge. Where what is meant by line charge? The charge, if you spread a uniform charge over a line or a thin filament, the filament that will be having cross sectional area as tending to 0, it will be called as filament or thin line. And if we spread a uniform charge over the line, infinite line, then the electric field intensity due to that line at a point P in space can be found out with the with this figure, and it will be having formula. We don't have to derive that right now. Just remember the formula to find the electric field intensity at a field point P in space due to line charge. Consider that line charge be on Z axis. Consider that the line charge be on Z axis. The formula will be vector E equal to rho L upon 2 pi epsilon naught rho, where rho is the perpendicular distance from the field point on the line charge. If line charge is present on Z axis, then the perpendicular from the field point, that is point P, which is marked here, this field point present at this point, perpendicular from the field point on this line will be this line, horizontal line, and this rho will be the distance of that line. So rho is the distance from field point on the Z axis, that is line charge, where 2 pi rho is the proportionality constant that was previously 4 pi epsilon naught, but due to some calculations it is reduced to 2. And rho L is the line charge density. Rho L is the line charge density. It is coulomb per meter. Line charge density means the charge present on line. It is the line charge density is the line charge present on unit length of the line. Unit length. If you consider this much length as unit length, then the charge present on this unit length will be, means if you add all the charges present on the unit length, the total of that will be rho L. Total of that will be rho L. Rho L is the line charge density, means the total charges present on unit length on the line charge. So the formula is E equals to rho L upon 2 pi epsilon naught rho, and A cap rho is the direction from the line charge to the field point on this line, means on the rho line. When we have drawn the projection from point P on perpendicular on Z axis, we got a perpendicular line. The direction of this line from the line charge on to the field point will be the direction of rho. It is given by the direction is given by A cap rho, because E finally will have this direction. E will have this direction. The effect of the points present above this point of intersection, this is the point of intersection of the projection. So all the field points present above the point of intersection will be cancelled. The effect will be cancelled by all the points present below the intersection. Point of intersection means if we have a point charge present here, it will show some effect in this direction on the point. Similarly, we may have another point below the point of intersection having the distance, same distance Z here, so it will be like this. So the component, the vertical component of this vector and this vector will be cancelled out, and the horizontal component will be added. The vertical components will get cancelled out. The vertical this vector will have vertical component like this. This will have one vertical component like this, and one horizontal. It will have one horizontal component. Similarly, if we take this vector, it will have a vertical component in downward direction and a horizontal component like this. So both horizontal component will be added and both vertical components will be cancelled out because of same magnitude and opposite direction. Similarly, we may have one point here, so this point will cancel the effect of above point. If you have one point here, the same will be cancelled by another point here. So all the effects of all the points present above the point of intersection will be cancelled by all the effects below due to all the points below the point of intersection. So the remaining effect will be in horizontal direction only, means in the direction of rho only. So E will have only rho component. E will have only rho component. So this is the effect of line charge on field point. Then coming to next topic. If we have a surface charge, consider a surface in a space. Consider that you have a surface like this in a space. Then I can draw some shaded area like this. This is surface, and if there is a field point present here, then you have to just draw perpendicular projection from the field point on the surface like this. Because it is 3D, you have to consider that I am drawing 3D in 2D. So this point is present above this surface, and I am drawing perpendicular from the point on the surface, and which is having angle 90 degree, means drawing projection from the point on perpendicular position from the point on surface. Then this distance will be rho. This distance will be rho, but it is of no use in this case, because the formula only consider the surface charge. Surface charge will be the charge present in unit surface area. If you consider this as unit surface area, means having unit length, unit height, L and H, if you multiply this, you will get this surface area, and the charge present in the surface area, total charge present in the surface area, will give you surface charge density, rho s. And the formula for electromagnetic field intensity at point P due to this type of plane having the charge density as rho s will be, the formula will be E equals to rho s upon 2 epsilon naught into a cap x, where a cap x is the direction from the plane to the point, means it is the direction of this radial line. Here in this case I have marked as rho, but if you consider this plane as YZ plane, if you consider this as YZ plane, then perpendicular to YZ will be x direction. It will be x direction. So you will have a cap x. So if you take another plane, for example, if you take xy plane, then the perpendicular will be z. So in that case it will be a cap z. So if you generalize this formula, then we have to mark this x as n. N means normal, normal or perpendicular. P for perpendicular, n for normal. In this figure that I have, it is marked as n, a cap n, n for normal. So generalizing this formula, so the formula is E equals to rho s upon twice epsilon naught into a cap n, where a cap n is the unit vector perpendicular to the plane. It is a line drawn as projection from point P on the surface, and where the direction of this line is represented by a cap n. So E will be in a cap n direction. Then coming to next topic. Similar is the case with another type. We can have this type of surface having charge. We can have ring type of surface having charge. So there may be multiple possibilities, but the main are the point charge, line charge and surface charge. So you have to consider, you have to understand the concept with the help of the basic line charge, point charge and surface charge. Now coming to the next topic, it is Faraday's law. Faraday's law. So Faraday law, in Faraday law, Faraday has done an experiment as he has taken two spherical surfaces of metallic conductors. You can see that in figure. See this figure. So Faraday has taken two spherical surfaces with charges, means two spherical metallic conductors of a sphere shape. Then he mounted the smaller conducting surface within the bigger conducting surface, and both are concentric, and then he placed positive charge on the inner surface, inner sphere, and then he experienced that the same charge with negative polarity has appeared automatically on the above surface. Means he started the experiment by neutralizing both the spheres. Means he has removed all the charges present on both the spheres. Then he placed positive charge on inner sphere, and immediately he experienced some negative charge on the above surface, all above sphere, with having same magnitude but opposite polarity. He has placed the charge plus q, then he got minus q on the above sphere. This is his experiment, and due to that he has decided to give some name to that, that he has experienced that some charge is moving from inner sphere to outer sphere. So there is a displacement of charge. So he marked that as psi. Psi is electrical charge, electric flux. He has said that some flux psi is traveling from positive surface to the negative surface. Then this psi means flux per unit area will be called as flux charge density, flux density or flux, electric flux density or flux charge density or displacement density, and it is given by this formula, displacement density. You can see that he has placed some charge within this point and experienced the flux coming out from the point, and he labeled it as psi, means electric flux, and the value of that electric flux is same as q, because this psi is also, it is generating the same charge q on the above surface, above sphere. So he said that there is a displacement of charge marked as d. D is the displacement of charge or displacement density. It is having the same formula as E. You can see that q upon 4 pi r square. So it is it is same as E, because E is also proportional to q and inversely proportional to r square. So D is also proportional to q and inversely proportional to r square, and the direction of both are same, just like E and D, because E is also having direction a cap r and D is also having direction a cap r. The difference is only of epsilon naught. So we can compare D with E as D equals to epsilon naught E, because there is a difference is of only epsilon naught. This is the formula that compares D with E. D equals to epsilon naught E. I can place both the formulas here. The formula for E was is the formula for E. It is proportional to Q and inversely proportional to R square, radial distance, and having direction a cap r. Similarly, D is also having direction a cap r. It is proportional to Q and inversely proportional to R square. So comparing these two, we can have formula D equals to epsilon naught E, and D is called as displacement density. This is called as displacement density. Then next is Gauss law. Gauss is a scientist who has defined the same concept that Faraday has explained with some another figure. So consider this figure. So the Faraday has experienced that the charge enclosed within the sphere travels from the center to the outer surface. So there is some displacement. There is some displacement of charge, means flux psi, from inner side to outer side in all possible direction. So the charge that travels, it comes out from the surface. So the Gauss has experienced that if surface is uniform sphere, then only the complete charge come out. But if the sphere is not uniform, if it has some it is tilted in some direction, then the charge, it travels in normal direction. When it comes out from the surface, it will not be in the direction of surface. The surface or direction of surface will be perpendicular to surface. Here the direction of surface is like this, and the direction of surface is given by this vector, but the psi is not coming in the direction of surface. So I can mark it as D, and this will be as the perpendicular component. It will be only dN. dN is the normal component. This is normal vector. This is the normal. This much is the normal component of this D in normal direction. You can see this in this figure. यहाँ पे इसके अंदर जो है एंगल को शो नहीं किया, यहाँ पे मैं बता सकता. I can show that this is the angle theta, where n is the normal to this surface, and this D is the direction of travel of the charge from the source to the surface, outermost surface. This is the direction of psi. It comes out from this surface when it is normal. If I draw this figure like this here, you can see that it is normal. So complete psi will come out as D. But in this case, where the surface is not uniform, having some direction theta with the direction of this psi, then only the dN component will come out. Only dN component will come out. This is what Gauss law has explained. So Gauss law states that the total electric flux crossing or leaving the closed surface is same as the total charge enclosed by the surface, provided the surface is uniform. So he has written the expression as psi leaving the surface is equal to the Q enclosed within the surface. Psi that is leaving or crossing the surface is same as the Q enclosed within the surface. Then we can find the differential flux and differential psi from this dN as the scalar component, as we have already studied as scalar component previously. So we can find the psi as dN into ds. Ds is the differential surface, and psi is the differential flux coming from the differential surface, and dn is the component in normal direction. You can see here in normal direction the component of flux density or displacement density is given by dn. So d psi is dn into ds. So I can adjust this formula to get the dot product. So dn being scalar quantity, I can write from the trigonometric formula using this triangle. Here you can see the triangle, it is adjacent, dn is the adjacent component. I can write it as d cos theta. I can write it as d cos theta. So if I replace dn as d cos theta, it will be d cos theta into ds. So let me put the formula, complete formula here. You can see the formula. D psi is dn into ds, where dn is the normal component of d having angle theta. So it can be written as d cos theta into ds, where d is vector quantity, ds is also differential surface is vector quantity. So if I take mod of these two, I can say that this looks like a dot product of d and ds. So I can replace it with d as a d dot ds. So differential psi is given by d dot ds. So differential psi is nothing but the flux, number of flux lines coming out from the differential surface. If I mark a small area here as differential surface ds, then whatever charge that comes out from this differential surface will be d psi. So d psi is given by d dot ds. So if I want to calculate complete psi that comes out from the closed surface, then I have to integrate over the closed surface. I have to integrate, means I have to do surface integration. So if I want to find psi, complete psi, then I have to integrate closed surface by closed surface integration for this d psi, means d dot ds. So if I integrate d psi over the closed surface, I can get complete flux psi. So if I get complete psi, I can write it as total charge, because the Gauss law explained that the psi leaving is equal to the charge enclosed. Psi leaving is equals to charge enclosed. So this will be psi leaving. So if I integrate the differential psi over the closed surface, I can get complete psi, and which will give me the total charge within the enclosed surface. So this is called as Gauss law. So Gauss law can be written in the formula. So let me put the formula presented by Gauss for this case. So Gauss law, Gauss has explained this formula as closed surface integration of d dot ds gives you charge enclosed. Now the charge enclosed can also be found out with the help of another integration. Means we have actually calculated this formula by integrating differential psi. Means this is actually this is nothing but d psi. This is d psi. So if I integrate d psi over the closed surface integration, I can get complete psi leaving, and since psi leaving is equals to q enclosed, I can write this as equal to q enclosed. But to find q enclosed, there is one more way, with the help of volume charge density. If we have a volume, complete closed surface or closed sphere as a volume, then if I consider on a small portion, small volume within the complete volume, if I consider this as small volume within the complete volume, let this be dV, differential volume. Then the charge present within the differential volume be rho v differential volume charge density. Rho v is the volume charge density, means total charge present in differential volume dV is rho v. Then if I integrate this rho v over the complete volume with the respect to dV, then I can get Q. So to find this Q, we have two ways. One way is to integrate the differential psi over the closed surface integration. It is surface integration. This will give you complete psi, which is equal to complete Q. So this is the one way to find Q. Another way to find Q is just by integrating the volume charge density over the closed volume. So this will be volume integration. So if I equate these two equations, it can be written like this. This is nothing but these two equations are integrated, equated. The left hand side gives you the method by calculating differential integrating differential psi. Right hand side is by integrating volume charge density. So this is another form of Gauss law. This is another form of Gauss law. Then the next topic that we will study will be application of Gauss law, and in that we have to learn an operator, that is vector differential operator. So the vector differential operator is a simple operator that differentiate all the components of vector. It is given by this formula. Vector differential operator, it is denoted by this inverted del or nabla. It is called as nabla or inverted del. It is it has a property to differentiate all the components of vector. If you have a vector like vector A, if you have a vector A like this, which will have component A cap, AX plus AY plus AZ, then if you apply vector differential operator over this vector, means if you take nabla dot A, then this will actually differentiate all the three components of vector with three components of differentials, means del by del x of A cap AX, del by del y of AY, del by del z of AZ. So you have to just take the dot product of this nabla with the vector that you want to differentiate. So you can differentiate a vector with the help of this nabla. Initially we have done addition of we have done multiplication of vector, multiplication of scalar component of vectors, vector component of vectors. We have multiplied two vectors by dot product and by cross product. Then now we can differentiate vector with the help of vector differential operator. So if I differentiate a vector D, consider a vector D, then it will have component dx, dy and dz. So if I apply nabla on D to find the differentiation of D, then it will look like the d del dot D, and it will be equal to, it will look like this. Del by del x of dx, del by del y of dy, del by del z of dz, and this del dot D equals to, it is called as divergence of D. Del dot D is also called as divergence of D. So it is standard formula. Del dot D is called as divergence of D. It is denoted by this formula. Let me put that formula. So this del dot d is divergence of d, right hand side is same, and divergence of d is also calculated with the help, it is also calculated as equal to volume charge density. Means it is obtained it is observed that the volume charge density is same as divergence of d. Divergence of d, it is also equal to volume charge density rho v. So we can have formula divergence of d equals to del by del x of dx plus del by del y of dy plus del by del z of dz is equals to del dot d is equals to rho v. So all the possibilities are there. We can equate in any way. So let me put all the formulas of divergence. This is the first formula of divergence. This is another formula of divergence. Divergence of d is rho v, and divergence of d is also del dot d. So del dot d is equals to rho v. We can write this formulas also. Del dot d, divergence of d is nothing but del dot d, and divergence of d is rho v. So we can have del dot d is equals to rho v. But this vector differential operator that we have studied just now, it is actually vector. So vector can be obtained in cylindrical system, it can be in spherical system, and it can be in primary Cartesian system. So when we multiply a vector d with vector differential operator like this del dot d, we will get expression like this: del by del x dx, del by del y dy, del by del z dz. But this actually, where in this case the d is also in x y z, means cylindrical Cartesian system. Similarly, the nabla means vector differential operator is also in rectangular system. So this will be the formula. But what happen in cylindrical system? In cylindrical system, if you multiply both, you will get like this. In cylindrical system, multiplication of del dot d will be like this. It will be 1 by rho into del by del rho of rho d rho plus 1 by rho into del by del phi of d phi, and last will be del by del z of dz. And in spherical system, it will be like this. One upon r square del by del r of r square dr plus 1 upon r sin theta into del by del theta of sin theta d theta plus 1 by r sin theta into del by del phi of d phi. So this is the formula in spherical system. So this is about divergence, where d is divergence. Divergence is nothing but an operator. It is another name of vector differential operator. So if I apply vector differential operator on d, it will be del dot d. Or same is I can say that apply divergence, take divergence of d, means just we have to apply del dot d. So div is operator. So div is divergence operator. It can be called as divergence of d. So when you apply divergence operator on d, you have to take actually differentiation of d with the help of nabla, means with the help of vector differential operator. So divergence, there is another topic, divergence theorem. In this case, just we have to take follow up of the previous law that we have studied, that is Gauss law. Gauss law, which states that the surface integration of d dot ds is equals to volume integration of rho v dv. This is called as divergence theorem. In this case, this rho v, you can see that in divergence we have taken del dot d as equal to rho v. So this rho v can be replaced by del dot D. With the help of divergence, just you can replace the del dot D. You can replace this rho v by del dot D. So for you can get the formula in another format as you can see the change here only. The rho v is del dot D, where del dot D is divergence of D, and divergence of D is equal to rho v. So this is about divergence theorem. So here with this topic we have finished the first unit. So tomorrow we will take lecture from 2 onward, from 2 to 4, and we will cover the second unit also. So I expect your presence there. So I am closing the recording.